think it's important for fans to know what type of struggle that he is going through personally. In his contract year, you would not expect him to be batting under 220, which he is doing with his pending free agency. Probably one of the top 5 biggest names in all of baseball. You would expect him, of the last couple years in the postseason, the Nationals not being able to make that type of mark. This was his mark. I mean, he's been on the scene for a long time, but how's he lived up to? And Nick, I know that you follow LeBron, and LeBron was kind of a lot like Bryce Harper, Sports Illustrated cover boy at the age of 16, now being with the Nationals in the face of Major League Baseball, but not living up to the expectations we have seen LeBron James. So spectacular night for him, a guy who's having a disappointing season.
And I wonder if this will be the moment that propels him in the Nationals the rest of the season. Like, they're a team that, while right now they wouldn't be in the playoffs, it's not like they're out of the race. They're playing 500 baseball. They're 5 games back of the Phillies in their division, and that's with Harper, like you said, batting .215 on the year. You also wonder if it will propel maybe his career forward with Washington because he's a pending free agent. But that's all things down the road, which I know we're going to get to. What this was last night was storybook. It's the type of things we say, you say you couldn't script it. Well, they could script it, but it would come across as not so believable.
So set the table. Down 18-9 in the final round.
Down 18-9 with 90 seconds left. Now, he knows he has the 30-second additional time, but he looked like, to me, it looked like he was drawing dead. It looked like he had no shot, and then he hits home runs on 9 of the final 10 pitches he sees. He and his dad kind of fudged the rules a little bit because they knew they were up against the clock. They didn't wait for the ball to land anymore. Just keep going. And when I say with 90 seconds left, he didn't start hitting those home runs with 90 seconds left. His dad, after the timeout, started missing pitches, which was odd. It looked like he was throwing in breaking balls in batting practice. And then he got in a groove that would have lit any crowd up, but it's the hometown crowd. It's their guy that you said, the LeBron-type expectations. It was unbelievable. I'm sitting there watching it with buddies, and we had, of course, bets on how many home runs he was going to finish on. And the lowest number anybody had was 13. And with a minute left, we thought he wasn't even going to get to the lowest number. He ends up tying it as time expires. Then he gets the 30-second add-on and winning it. That was as good as a home run derby can be. Like, you can't have a more compelling home run derby. And I'll give Major League Baseball credit in this regard. They changed the system. The time, instead of the 10 outs, it's a far more compelling viewing experience. And it adds real tension to what you're seeing.
We talk all the time, CC, about pressure with big-time athletes, and you don't generally think of pressure when it comes to the home run derby. But here's a guy who's playing basically for a contract this year, who struggled the first half of the season, who basically came out and said, I'll play in the home run derby, the All-Star game, when it's here in our park. Everyone here is rooting for him. He's the biggest name on the roster last night, and he comes out trailing and then delivers. And if you're here in the stadium, you heard the energy. If you're watching at home, even the announcers were shocked as he kept going yard, yard, yard each time.
I mean, it was one of the things that we expected to see from Bryce Harper. You know, the guy was a phenom as a kid. We've been following his career. He hadn't had moments like that. We've seen the other players that are the faces of baseball. We've seen them have moments during the regular season, postseason. Really, baseball is about the postseason. And until Bryce is able to do that in the postseason compared to in a home run derby, now, it was a great script for a guy having a bad season, but to say this is the highlight of his career,
well, I don't think it's. I mean, he won an MVP a few years ago. I don't think it's the highlight of his career. It's the highlight of his season so far. And we've seen home run derbies where guys were on this great upward trajectory, do great in the derby or win the derby, and then the second half of the season goes sideways. I mean, the curse of the home run derby was something people brought up.
Saw it last year.
Does it screw up your swing? Does whatever it? You wonder if this could be, and I don't want to overreact to just a moment, but you wonder if this could be the flip of that. A guy who's just scuttling along. Now, he does have 23 home runs, but it was the only thing on the year he'd been doing well was hitting home runs. If that can be the type of thing that helps turn his season around. You
know, yesterday we sat here on the show, we had Tom Verducci on, who just wrote an article about how underrated Mike Trout is. We talked about how he could walk down the street. You wouldn't know who he was if he wasn't wearing a uniform. When you look at a guy like Bryce Harper, would you say Bryce Harper right now is one of the biggest stars in baseball?
He should be the biggest star in baseball. Mike Trout can be the best player. He is the best player. But Bryce Harper, because of the cachet he had coming into Major League Baseball, because of the way he carries himself, because of the way young people gravitate towards his style, his flair, he should be the biggest star in the sport. He can be the biggest star in the sport. He has the talent and the look to be the biggest, and he carries himself like he's the biggest star in the sport. And a couple years ago, he played like the biggest star in the sport. He's had some minor injuries, and then this year, the shift has really hurt him. There are some other things that have really hurt him. But baseball needs guys like Bryce Harper. Like, Mike Trout can end up being the greatest baseball player ever. Like Mickey Mantle, our generation's Mickey Mantle, whatever. But Mike Trout is so understated. You need to have a flip side to that, a guy that's going to be overstated, but that only works when you are at the top of the sport. He has been in the past. This year, he hasn't been.
It only works when you're great, all right? And that's the pressure that Bryce, that he will be under throughout his career. It's high expectations, but will he be able to live up that? Is he the biggest star in baseball? He's one of the biggest stars. I wouldn't say he's the biggest star because he hadn't had the highlights that we are used to seeing with the biggest names in baseball.
So do you think the Nationals then, to forget what we think he might have in the second half, should the Nationals go all out to try to bring him back?
Listen, the all-out part is interesting. We saw a guy who statistically had a very similar opening 5 years of his career to Harper's opening 6 years in Giancarlo Stanton. And Stanton got a 13-year, $325 million contract that instantly became something of an albatross for the Florida Marlins. That's why Giancarlo Stanton is now a New York Yankee. I would be hesitant to give anybody in sports, anybody, I'll be honest, in life, a 9, 10, 11-year guaranteed deal. But if you're the Nationals, would you pay Bryce Harper, like Tom Verducci said yesterday, $40 million a year for 5 years? I would. I always buy in the talent. And when you have Scherzer, when you have Strasburg, when you have this market, you have the ability to compete for championships. In his 6 years in the pros, he's been to the playoffs 4 times. Now, they've been one and done in the playoffs all 4 times. Bunch of Game 5 losses in the short ALDS. But I don't think you can let a talent like Bryce Harper walk in free agency and get nothing in return.
Yeah, it becomes hard for the franchise, and especially in doing shows like this. I don't think it's right for us to put the pressure on the franchise, go all out. They have to do something that's smart for them. And like Tom said yesterday, a shorter-term deal compared to the one Juan Carlos got would be better. And also, look at all these bad deals in baseballs, these long deals in baseballs. Yeah, you sign a guy when he's in his prime, you sign him to 6 to 8 to 10 years, he's going to be outside of his prime. So a lot of those end of the years, you're going to be eating those, and I believe that's really bad for baseball.